Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Sonny Roth11. I'm here commentating for Engie, who will be running Kirby Superstar 100%. And there's going to be quite a bit going on throughout this run. I'll do my best to explain everything that I can. And if you're ready, we'll be going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Are you good, Engie?
Yes.
Okay, because it shows you still on the file select. Oh, there we go. Now it's cut up. Okay, so the first game mode we'll be doing in Kirby Superstar 100% is Dynablade, and there's a very big first 30 seconds of the run. We have to do a mix, which is a 4-frame trick. And in order to do a mix, we have to inhale 2 enemies that contain abilities. So in this case, we'll be inhaling this Parasol, Waddle Dee, and the Waddle Doo, which will combine Beam and Parasol. And 11 abilities later, there's Jet on the wheel. So Jet has the fastest horizontal movement as well as the fastest vertical movement. It is a massive asset in this game in order to make it through everything very quickly. Now, one of the big differences between any percent and 100% in this game is we have to collect all 60 treasures in Great Cave Offensive, the 19 deluxe copy abilities in Milky Way Wishes, hit the 2 switches in Dynablade, which we'll see, one's in Stage 2 and the other is in Stage 4. We have to complete Spring Breeze, Gourmet Race, and the Arena. What you saw, that jump quick kill with Jet, if you fully charge Jet and jump in midair after you've got it fully charged and stored, you can deal 200 damage to a mini-boss and instantly kill him. Most of the mini-bosses in this game have around 160 to 180 HP. So no matter what, they're dead. You can't do that on any of the big bosses like Fatty Whale or Wham Bam Rock, etc. So here's the first switch in Dynablade. This will unlock one of the 2 copy ability rooms that we will never go into. And now we have a glorious auto-scroller. I really don't have much say in this auto-scroller unless he does something that I normally do in this auto-scroller. Like you saw in the Meta Nightmare Ultra run, there are a lot of the rooms between Kirby Superstar and Kirby Superstar Ultra that weren't changed. A lot of the things were kept the same. There are slight differences in the mechanics between the 2 games, though it's nothing too terribly big. Now, something you've seen him doing is he'll dash and then jump, and that stores your dash state in midair. So you're able to continue using Jet in midair like that for your horizontal movement. That is known as Jet Header. And when he fully charges Jet, releases it, and presses Y to stop it early or hits a wall, the 2 balls that fly out are Jet Crackers. They deal quite a bit of damage. If I remember correctly, it's 45 damage for each one. Now, Cocoa Caverns is a very punishing stage. If things go wrong, then you can actually lose a lot of time within this stage. You want to avoid taking as much damage as you possibly can. Very good Wind Room. And this is usually the room that people will end up taking a lot of damage in, especially early on in learning the game. Now, Something else that I haven't mentioned is that there are certain intervals that he will use his jet header at. That's known as jet spacing, and it will become a lot more apparent in the first real stage of Revenge Meta Knight. It's also very crucial in the first real stage of Meta Knight. So, stage 4, similar to stage 3, is all about execution. If you mess up one small thing, it's very detrimental. And there's a very big thing coming up at the end of this stage that I will explain once we get to it. We've seen it in a few previous stages, though nothing too big yet. So here's the second switch in Dynablade. So now we've got the 100% requirement met for Dynablade, which is probably the easiest 100% requirement to meet. Also the most fun, just because these stages can be very challenging to do very quickly. So while we're approaching this boss gauntlet that you saw, I'm going to explain the mini-boss skips that you did not see in Superstar Ultra. So if you fully charge jet and do a double jump, you'll actually gain enough height to go above the screen to where you don't have to fight these mini-bosses. Unfortunately, he missed it on the Poppy Bros fight, but the Poppy Bros really aren't too terribly bad to kill. If you do it correctly, it saves, if I remember correctly, it's anywhere from 9 to 12 seconds, and it's extremely useful. It's a very, very big reset point if you're going for a PB and you've got a very, very good time. So we're coming up to Dynablade, and this is a very interesting fight because normally you would fight her by just attacking her head like Kennen and Guest did, but instead we're going to grab a star with a fully charged jet and suplex it into the ground. The star hits Dynablade's head, hits the ground, bounces off the ground, hits Dynablade's head again, dealing a lot of damage. I can't give you an exact number on that one because it's random each time. And if you do it correctly, she's dead within 2 cycles. There is a potential to get a 1-cycle Dynablade kill, but it is very, very hard to do. So next up, we're going into Great Cave Offensive, and this is probably the longest part of the game. This is our good old treasure hunt. We have to collect all 60 treasures. We'll be using a variety of abilities in order to collect all 60 of the treasures, and there are some fun little tricks in here. So, you notice that there were 2 lovelies there, and the star that he spat ended up hitting the block instead. If you're far enough off, or far enough away from the lovelies, one of them won't spawn until you actually get it on screen, but the star will have gone past it. So, it'll hit the block instead of the lovely, destroy the block, and you don't have to worry about anything. So, that's a somewhat tough setup to do, to hit both switches. You have to either run off the edge or you can slide, whichever you feel more comfortable with. And once Kirby's foot hits that far block, you do a dive bomb with wing, and it'll hit both of the switches. So, with this chest, if you hit that center block, you are done. You won't be able to get that chest because it'll fall into the lava blocks and just instantly get destroyed. So there is a clip coming up here that, for the longest time, I didn't even know how to describe how this clip worked. But I've come up with something that works for now. So pretty much, there's going to be a block that you can dive bomb through, and while it's destroying the other blocks, it leaves a gap, and you can go through that gap. He missed it, unfortunately, but it saves about 5-6 seconds, I believe. And now we're coming up to a pretty quick bonkers fight. You just blow up the blocks, he falls through, and done. A lot of the quick kills for bosses aren't too terribly different between the two games. You'll just see an ability used that is hardly ever used in Ultra. That ability would be Plasma, and that one I'll have to explain once we get to it. So, for the longest time, we didn't have a setup to get that chest very easily, and then I forget who it was. Somebody found one that was exactly that. We do a dash and dive bomb at the same time, and it, as you see, it sends you at an angle instead of directly down. That will allow you to fit in one of those one-tile gaps without too much of a problem. The one-tile gaps become a massive pain later on in the game. So now we're going into Fatty Whale with Jet. It's, to the best of my knowledge, impossible to one-cycle Fatty Whale with Jet. I may be wrong, but I've never been able to do it. This is a pretty good Fatty Whale fight. Just missed one of the jet crackers. And now we have cart skip. So, one of the runners from earlier gave me a bunch of flack about not doing this little thing. Taking the minecart is actually a lot slower than using Jet just to skip the minecart. But for the longest time, we never had a consistent setup to be able to skip the minecart. And it wasn't until about, I think, a year, maybe 2 years ago, that we found something consistent for skipping the minecart. So now we're into the crystal section of Great Cave, which really has a lot of underwater movement. For the most part, the second room we go into from the hub is all underwater movement. Now, you'll see something similar here to the mini-boss quick kill on Chef Kawasaki that you saw earlier, where he'll start charging Jet, jump in the middle of it, finish charging, and unleash his charge, or release his charge. That allows him to have a jet cracker hit that bomb block and destroy the other blocks, so that way he can get to the fish fossil and the beast fossil. And there are the nunchucks. So now we're into Waterworld. And this is the section that is both easy yet very hard, because you can, if you just make a slight error on your movement in the water, it can cost you quite a bit of time. Now, the hearts that are coming up that he's collecting, there are 4 of them: autumn, spring, winter, summer, and they're all the same value of 250,000 apiece. Something else that you saw was when he came out of the fully charged jet, after using it for the horizontal movement, he had invincibility frames. Those will come in handy later. We do abuse those invincibility frames. So one of the treasures that you saw was Captain Falcon's helmet. And there is the dud. For some reason, they decided it would be a good idea to put a bomb in a chest that just doesn't work. I don't know why. So now we're coming up to Computer Virus, whose RNG is pretty much the same between the 2 games. We're hoping that Engi gets to go first on each of these, but all you have to do for Slime is 1 jet cracker and a jet header, because jet header will deal damage. For Dancing Doll, it's jet cracker and 2 jet headers. And then for the Magician, I usually go 2 jet crackers and then a jet header, but some people will try for the 1 cycle, which is a jet cracker, hit the Magician with one of your charges, turn around, jet cracker again. But a fairly good Computer Virus fight. So now we're heading into the tower after another cart skip. The tower has a lot of stuff to it. There was a route change on the tower, so there are so many different routes available in it now. And the one that he'll be using is the one that starts off with jet and goes into a jet mix later on. It's going to be the same mix from Dynablade, where we're mixing Parasol with Beam, waiting for the 11th ability, and just getting jet from there. There's only one catch, though, and you'll notice as we continue through here that we go into specific rooms, or he goes into specific rooms for specific reasons. I also run this game, so I keep trying to say we. So this bonkers kill is actually fairly easy, since there's the bomb block underneath where the chest is. And if you do everything right, you can actually get dash status immediately. So this is where one of the 3 death warps will occur. There's one here. The other, I can't remember where all 3 of them are with this route. It's the second one I don't remember. But the third one is after we get the final treasure of the tower, which is the Warrior Shield, and there are going to be some fun little shenanigans coming up to get that. So now we've got the mix coming up. Looked like you were about 1 frame off. Second try is still very good, though. So we're going into what I consider to be the worst room in the game. We are going into the sleep room. I hate this room so much. Just to get Mr. Saturn. And the old route used to take wing through here, make a partner, and then switch it out for stone. Or switch our power out for stone. But this route will hold jet for most of the tower. Now this room with all the downdrafts is a little bit of a pain, just because the B button sometimes will not respond when we need it to, and we just get carried by the downdrafts. So this is the mannequin room. It's an auto-scrolling room that if you don't get the mannequin and get out in time, you're dead. It's a very unforgiving room. So now we pick up wing and then fight Gamilio Arm. And Gamilio Arm is actually fairly easy to fight, just because all that's used are dive bombs. In which case you can use one of the wing charges. So now there will be 2 more treasures to get before another death warp happens, and it'll send us back to Gamilio Arm's room instead. There's a flag when you enter Gamilio Arm's room that sets it as your spawn point, whereas if you don't go in there and then you do a death warp, you won't spawn there. I've got a bit of delay with what I'm watching. So, now he has plasma, which this gives a perfect opportunity to explain how plasma works. Plasma has multiple stages of damage, as well as multiple attacks with it. That first attack that you saw was the very big plasma ball that also fires 2 sparks behind it. That deals 40 damage. That requires 16 D-pad inputs or more. If you go, I believe it's 11 to 15, you'll get a helix, and then anything below that just doesn't matter. The helix does 32 damage, and everything else just starts lowering in damage until you get to the point that you just do an uncharged attack that only deals 1 damage. So 16 or 1 tile gaps, 16 by 16 gaps, are a pain. You have to be right up on the wall if it's at the side of a wall. Otherwise, you won't be able to get into there. So now we are heading to get the last few treasures of the tower and finish everything up on there. So this treasure upcoming for me is fairly easy. You just make the treasure chest drop from in the middle and then shield and you're done. You want to keep Samira alive because Samira is going to play a crucial role here in a moment. This is a trick called elevator skip. That very nice first try on that one without having Samira on the elevator. This is the tough one because the gap for falling through the elevator is much smaller. Though he got it very quickly, which is good. And now we're coming up to I think it's a 1 pixel, 1 frame trick. and that trick is pool skip. Pool skip is a fun little trick that really is the bane of quite a few runs. Since it is a one-frame trick, it's very difficult. There is a bomb block that you have to hit after getting the samurai sword, but if you do it correctly, you can hit the bomb block with mirror by being up right against the wall, hitting the Y button right before you hit the ground, and then going through the small hallway just to get the samurai sword, or the king's sword, I forget which it is. And then you get the warrior's shield and go through a death warp. And that's it for the tower. So, two more minecart sections left. This one being the second to last one. Fairly nice lull between tower and the garden section, where things will just pick right back up with Jet. We use an air puff on that switch so that way it doesn't hit both switches to release everything that's within the petting zoo on us. So now we grab Jet again and use it to get this treasure. And I actually don't remember the names of all of the treasures. And now we're coming up to a very, very fun little part of the game. We are about to have to deal with this beautiful little partner known as Wheelie. Though that'll be after getting our Christmas tree. And he's going for a nice little skip here. If you do everything correctly, you can actually fully charge your Jet and do a double jump to destroy the bomb block, which clears out the path for the fuse and will allow you to enter the cannon on one cycle. So now we've gotten the Lamia scale, and this room really isn't too terribly bad. It's just being able to move correctly. It can be tough. It's very tough when learning the game, but after you've learned the game, it's not too bad. So we have to create a partner here in order to get this shiny bamboo. Otherwise, we cannot break the block. And then use a partner jump in order to get up to this door even faster, where Capsule J will be turned into Wheelie. And I really do not like Wheelie. So you can use Jet in order to get the tire, but it's more difficult to use Jet than it is to use Wheelie and have you be Wheelie Rider. Also, you can't collect chests while you're on Wheelie unless you do a dash and then hit up. Or, not a dash, a slide, and then hit up. But if you slide while you're mashing for plasma, then sliding sucks. It can throw away quite a bit of time if you're not lucky. So now we've got the fun little Donkey Kong inspired cannons. Even though I think they were in games before Donkey Kong. And we're coming up to another method of mini-boss quick killing. Except missed. So what you can do, instead of having to kill them like this with wheel, is if you do everything right, you can actually get a double jump off of the wheelie, which does the same damage as if you did a double jump with jet. It does 200 damage and will also instantly kill any mini boss.
Okay.
So there's a strat in this room with wheelie that if you do everything correctly, it you can just make it through this room very quickly. Threw me off when I saw the treasure screen. And there's only one way to get the orichalcum crystal when you're playing alone, and that is to use Crash in order to activate the switch, so that way you can get to the treasure. So now we're on to the last few treasures of Great Cave Offensive. And the last two treasures are the Platinum Ring, and very nice cutter skip, and the Triforce, which we will see later on as well. That was a really nice cutter skip. I actually don't really have a good way to explain cutter skip either. And there's one of the reasons why I hate wheelie so much. But there we are, there's the Triforce. He has the max amount of gold for the 100% requirement in Great Cave Offensive. And now we're on to Wham Bam Rock. And you'll see this strategy used in Cavios and Milky Way Wishes. What he was trying to do was get a few early hits on Wham Bam Rock by jumping into the fist early on, so that way it can deal more damage. I know my delay is huge, but there's nothing I can really do about it. It's not always a guarantee with VLC that it'll work. But right now, with where my stream is, I see that we're on Meta Knight. And Meta Knight is full of the auto-scrollers, so it can It can be a little annoying at times. So, I talked about jet spacing earlier. This stage is where jet spacing really comes into play. If you end up having your jet spacing off, then you can hit anything and everything. And I really don't have anything going into the auto scroller, so if there are any donations, then
Perfect. I actually just came in here to do that. We have a $5 donation from Xander Webb. I don't know if we'll be able to watch, but I know it'll be a great run. They'd better get world record. I think he's referring to, yeah. He donated $5 to have Steven play Mario in the 96 co-op run. So thank you for your donation, Xander. And that is all we have for now.
alrighty. So, there's a fun little thing you can do with the auto scroller there, that you can actually go out of bounds and just stay out of bounds throughout the entire auto scroller. It's very risky, but it's fun to do. I've died a few times doing that. So, Wispy and Twin Woods are very easy. You just hit them. You hit Wispy with the Jet Cracker, and then just do uncharged jet attacks that hit him fairly hard. And then for Twin Woods, each time you do one of the uncharged jet attacks, it hits twice. So it kills Twin Woods very quickly. There is a double quick kill coming up for Bonkers. And depending upon how things go, it can save a lot of time or it can waste a lot of time. So the first one's down. Didn't go for the second one, but that's okay. The second one is actually fairly risky to go after. So it's not always recommended to go after the second Bonkers kill. So after we finish the stage, we get assistance from somebody whom we defeated earlier, being Dynablade. She carries us onto the deck of the Halberd, where we then get to fight Twin Cannon and quite a few of Meta Knight's minions. The biggest thing to keep in mind for the minions is that you can skip the first set of minions on the second screen of this stage, and then the second set of minions will be one of the Lizard suplex guys that I can never remember its name, and a Poppy Bros. And you can quick kill the suplex guy and then launch him into the Poppy Bros by holding whatever direction you're facing and holding down the Y button. So like if you run into him like that, you'll pick him up, put him on your thruster, and this will damage Poppy Bros. And then when you blast him off of the thruster, it deals even more damage to Poppy Bros, instantly killing Poppy Bros. That same strategy is used against Twin Cannon to get a quick kill, or Combo Cannon as it's known. So, most of the stages so far have had some sort of boss at the end of them. This stage does not, similar to the third stage. This stage is just getting through everything as quickly as you possibly can. It's a fairly easy stage to optimize. Unless you get hung up on the ladders, in which case then you're gonna bleed time everywhere. So, this upcoming stage, we get the Heavy Lobster refight. And the refight is fairly interesting. Though, like in Meta Nightmare, the run doesn't count unless you destroy all the blocks. At least for most of us runners. The strategy, though, for Heavy Lobster is fairly simple. Yeah, there was a Frosty skip. I did forget to talk about that. Pretty much, how you skip the Frosty is you just stay up at the top of the screen. Doing the alternate strategy with Lobster, where you can just shield against one of the walls and stay behind Lobster the whole time. So, Lobster can be a bit of a pain. In the respect that give you fire when you don't want your ability at any given time. It's the stage we get our Super NES superstar being Plasma. And it plays a very huge role through the rest of Meta Knight because we can deal so much damage with it in absolutely no time. Since it only takes 16 inputs in order to max the damage that you deal with Plasma within the time from the previous Plasma Ball, from firing the previous Plasma Ball. So, with the reactor, there are a few different things that it can do. It can fire from the main cannon underneath the crystal that you have to damage using its lasers, or it can actually fire at you from vents that come up underneath the ground. Okay, so issues. So there were some things that I couldn't see to commentate on, though it looks like we just ended up missing the autos, or ended up missing the auto scroll. Though seems like everything's back on track for me. It looks like we're about to fight Meta Knight, where we'll make a Plasma Wisp helper, grab sword, chunk sword, and end up fighting Meta Knight using Plasma. And that fight's over just like that. Now, the corridor with the minions beforehand, what we try to do is position ourselves. Hey, the helper glitch. We try to position ourselves just right to where the two sparks that come off the back end with plasma hit the enemy behind us, and then the plasma ball ends up hitting the enemies that are in front of us. So at the beginning of the escape sequence, you saw that the wheelie sprite was messed up. That was from creating a Plasma Wisp helper during the fade out between the end of the Meta Knight fight and this sequence right here being the escape sequence. And just like that, we're done with Meta Knight and on to either Gourmet Race or Spring Breeze before we go on to Milky Way Wishes. So, Gourmet Race is a fun little game mode. We're just racing King DDD, getting as much food as we possibly can, but getting all the food would be extremely slow. So we're trying to avoid some of the food that's out of the way and make some nice jumps as well. Our running speed in this game mode is similar to that of our running speed when we're using invincibility candy. And if we jump and don't let go of whatever direction is forward, then we slow down in midair to normal run speed. But if you jump and let go of the direction that's forward, before you jump, you maintain your speed and are able to jump farther. It's something that isn't too terribly easy to do, at least if you're learning the game, but after you've run the game for a while, it's almost second nature. So the third stage of Gourmet Race is just a bunch of wing bombing, which is very, very easy. Or wing bombing, wing diving. Wow. So it's very, very easy to do, but this stage is very tough to get an extremely good time on. So after Gourmet Race, we head into Spring Breeze, which you may recognize as a lot of KDL1 again. It's actually a fun little segment to run. Couple interesting kills that we have in this game. So it's nothing too terribly bad. Just bubbly clouds tends to be the most difficult. So we end up picking up Beam just because it's probably the strongest ability we can get at this point without having to do a mix. Wing Smashes works too. I like that guest. It's the dive bomb, if I remember correctly. So we'll just, with Beam, we just sit and end up hitting Wispy with the fully charged Beam attack 5 times, and then he's dead. We get the star and continue on to Float Islands. So, Float Islands, we want to lose our ability in, but we don't want to take too much damage in trying to lose our ability. And if we don't lose our ability, then that's fine. We actually have a backup strat to where it doesn't lose too much time. It just loses the amount of time that it takes for us to create a partner. So, to kill the quick kill on Lololo and La is we just grab Crash and we kill them with Crash. As easy as that. From what I've found out, mixers aren't really worth it in Spring Breeze. It doesn't seem like there's very much time you can save with them. So, onwards to Bubbly Clouds, there are 2 quick kills in here. There's one on Krakow Jr. and a fairly quick kill on Krakow himself. The Krakow Jr. quick kill takes us dash spitting a star, which puts Krakow Jr. down to 1 HP, and then we just shield kill him. And then Krakow Sr. sets us up for DDD as well. Outside of Krakow Sr.'s door are 2 Rockies, so we'll inhale one of them to get stone, and we use stone for the quick kill against Krakow Sr., which sets us up to go into Mount DDD with stone and defeat DDD with stone in usually 3 smashes. Does not look like Krakow is being very kind right now. Or RNG is just being very mean. One of the 2. Oh!
This is fun.
Fortunately, the respawn is just outside of Krakow Sr.'s door. Much better. That's how the fight's supposed to go. And now we're on to Mount DDD, where we just fight King DDD himself. And now that we're done with all the other 5 game modes, we're on to Milky Way Wishes. And there's no real intended route for Milky Way Wishes casually, but for speedrunning purposes, you always want to start out with Sky, because it has the 3 movement-based abilities in the stage. It has Wing, Wheel, and Jet. And the first one that we'll be getting is Jet. So, considering how the movement is, it's very necessary. So, we get Wing, Wheel, Jet, and then we get to get our revenge on Krakow. And Krakow is very, very easy in Milky Way Wishes as compared to having to fight him in just because you have Super Candy going into this fight, so you can just dive bomb him like it's nothing. So going into Hot Beat, there's a little bit of spacing that you have to deal with, though it's nothing too terribly bad. And there will be intentional damage boosts to get the fire ability here. But the route that we take for the speed run in Milky Way Wishes is we'll go to Sky High first, then Hot Beat, then Mechai, followed by Kavios, and then we'll go to the Copy Planet. And then the last three, which are Floria, Oculus, and Half Moon, don't matter too terribly much. Though most of the time I see Floria, Oculus, then Half Moon. So we're coming up to another attempt at a mini boss quick kill that unfortunately did not happen. Bugsy and Wheelie both have not been very nice. You could say Wheelie has not been Wheelie nice at all. But after getting suplexed and fire, that's all of the abilities that are in Hot Beat, so it's just the run to Gameleorn. The current pace right now, I'm not sure. I'd probably be able to give a better estimate after Milky Way Wishes. Gameleorn just was not nice to you there. And instead of fighting Gameleorn with Wing, we fight him with Jet because we'd run into Mechai with Jet. I'm gonna guess the run's probably around mid-upper 120 pace, though. There's still quite a bit to go, so anything could happen. So on to Mechai, where we get the Yo-Yo ability and Plasma. And there's going to be a fun little kill that we do against, or that he does against Heavy Lobster, since there's the Heavy Lobster refight on this stage. At least I hope he does it. That involves you using Wheel, stopping Wheel against a wall, and it will tick for a lot of damage, and it ticks very quickly. But when Wheel is stopped and you're not holding any buttons, you deal damage very quickly to whatever is within your hitbox. It's kind of similar to what he was trying to do against Wham Bam Rock for a very, very quick kill. So there's the Plasma ability that will be used later on. Oh, you got the perfect RNG too. That was a perfect heavy lobster fight. If he walks right into you, then that's all you need to be able to defeat heavy lobster in no time at all. So, Kavios is mini boss quick kill central. That's done in this stage. The abilities that will be gotten here are bomb, hammer, and stone. And this is probably the easiest stage to go through in the speed run, excluding that quick kill. So the boss of this stage is Wham Bam Rock, and if things go well, then the kill that he tried to go for in Great Cave will actually happen now. It's a lot easier to get in Milky Way Wishes than in Great Cave Offensive, just because you have access to an invincibility candy. But here's stone. And there's the invincibility candy. Maximum tomato for marathon safety, just in case the strat does not go well. There we are. So, problem with the copy planet is that it is full of tax. So, you can lose your ability at any given point in time, and it's a very sad planet if that happens. Looks like good copy planet. And now Floria. This planet is nice. The boss that we'll have to fight is Twin Woods, and the abilities we'll get here are Ice, Fighter, and Cutter. And Ice is probably the easiest ability to forget in the 100% route for this game mode, just because it's back at the beginning of the stage on the winter element. And this stage, each time you go through one of these doors with the little awning over it, it will change the season to whatever season's next in the rotation. So, you do have to visit all of the seasons, except for, I think, spring doesn't have an ability. It's really just winter and summer that have the abilities, and then autumn leads you to the Twin Woods fight. But there's a very easy quick kill against Twin Woods where you can jump over Twin Woods' nose, or each Quispy's nose, and just kill them very quickly. Now, going into Aquilus, it's probably a more difficult planet than it looks, just because there are quite a few momentum carries, certain strategies that you may want to attempt, and even a mini-boss fight that you have to do in order to get one of the abilities. But the abilities that we'll see here are, or that we'll get here, are Parasol, Parasol, Sword, and Beam. Remembering every ability in this game actually is a little difficult. Now, switching to wheel here helps out in the next room because there is a momentum carry coming up that he'll start off on wheelie and end up jumping off of wheelie while inside of that air bubble, turn into wheel and start going into the water. This preserves your momentum going into the water at whatever speed you were going on, or whatever speed you were going at as the wheel form, and will allow you to get through whatever room you're in extremely quickly, especially if you just go straight into water. Now, if you do not have an ability that can do a downward attack here, you actually cannot get sword. So it's a good thing that we did manage to get stone earlier, otherwise that would not have been possible to get through. And now we have yet another death warp. So after getting Bean, the boss of Aquilus is Fatty Whale, and there are a myriad of strategies you can use to defeat Fatty Whale. Some will use plasma, others use jet, there's wheel. You've really got a lot of options, but the fastest one that we usually do is wheel. We want him to do the big jump, and then if we can set ourselves up against the wall, Fatty Whale's dead just like that.
Hey, so, can we do a donation real quick?
Yeah.
We have a $500 donation from BK.
Oh, wow.
Spoiler,
Nice.
you're gonna need a bigger donation goal. Dude. Puts us $100 past what we raised total last April. Dude, that's great. Thank you so much, BK.
Yes, thank you very much, BK.
Alright, that's all for now.
Alrighty, so welcome to Half Moon. This planet is, you can either save half of a second using one strat, lose that half of a second using a different strat, or lose a lot of time by hitting all of the electricity blocks. The strategy that you saw Engi use is the one that saves half a second over using a warp star that's in the stage. So now we're coming up to Mini boss gauntlet. Well, I say a mini boss gauntlet. It's not really a gauntlet. It's a fairly easy mini boss fight. That is if things work out. Otherwise, this fight can take a little while. And then we head to Computer Virus Part 2 of 3. So it's going to be another very heavy RNG fight. And this time, instead of it being the Slime, Dancing Doll, and Witch, it's going to be Witch, Black Knight, and Dragon. And using Hammer, you can actually get a 1-cycle on the Black Knight and a very easy 2-cycle on Dragon. The 1-cycle on Black Knight is by doing a hammer flip and then a hammer throw. And then the 2-cycle on Dragon is just 2 hammer flips on each attack phase. And the last section for Milky Way Wishes is the ship Nova, where it's pretty much a Gradius section. And after that, you just fight Marks. We've got the credits to sit through, which is about 3 minutes. And then going into the arena, which is Plasma Mashing Heaven, or Hell, depending upon how you look at the game. I really don't have much to say about Nova just because it's Gradius. Though with Marks, there is a quick kill you can do, which really we call the Marks 1-cycle, though it's not technically a 1-cycle because he still does teleport once. It's just we kill him before he goes up to start planting the vines that sprout from the ground. Pretty much how that kill works is you want to fire off 5 fully charged plasma balls at Marks before he does his teleport. And then after he does his teleport, you then want to fire off 3 fully charged plasma balls and a helix for a grand total of 352 damage. And that will cause Marks to die. He only has, I think, 350 HP, so you actually get that 2 HP overkill on him. That's going to be hard to... And there was... that's the whole thing about sliding sucks, especially if you're mashing for plasma, because that can kill your pace. So if you're on a very good pace for Milky Way Wishes, it's definitely a killer. So now you get to enjoy 3 minutes of credits music. And the biggest thing you will see in Arena is just how plasma can be used to either one psycho bosses or just make bosses from being something that seems like a very hard or stressful fight to something that's trivial. One thing that wasn't shown off with plasma but should be in the arena is that you actually have the ability to fire twice in midair, once when you're jumping up, and then you've got those few frames that you're not moving in the air, and then you start dropping. You can fire again with plasma when you're dropping. Though I'm probably going to be very quiet during the arena so that way Engie can concentrate, just because it's one of those sections that there really isn't much to commentate on. You will notice similarity in the Meta Knight fight, where he just creates a Plasma Wisp partner, and then picks up the sword, throws the sword away, makes Plasma Wisp back into an item, and gets plasma back. The time will be when the characters from completing the arena set into place, so I can actually tell you when that is. Now, one of the differences on this credit sequence between the English and the Japanese version, the Japanese says "and more," but the US says "there's more." So, welcome to Arena. This is going to be just straight plasma mashing. Oh, there is one thing I forgot to mention about Arena. The bosses do have more HP than what they had in the main game, excluding computer virus. Which are known as battle windows in this game. Now, it is possible to 2-cycle Dragon with this, but it's quite difficult. It was close. Yeah, keep in mind that with Plasma, it's 16 D-pad inputs to get that large orb that he's been consistently firing. And that orb does 40 damage each time you use it. And the Helix, which is your second best attack, does 32. To answer that question, Brewski, a lot of us in the Kirby Superstar speedrunning community have practiced specifically this segment so that way we can better our plasma mashing abilities. Oh wait, I'll have a delay on calling time, so Engie probably should call time. Yeah, it's only 16 inputs on the D-pad. So you can alternate from up left to down right, or vice versa, or up right to down left, depending upon how you want to do it. It's really insane when you see somebody extremely good, like Engie, myself, Countdown. There are so many runners that are extremely good with their plasma mashing that I can't even tell you exactly how many of us are that good with it. There's no actual button combo. It's just hitting the D-pad, mashing on the D-pad as fast as you possibly can. Each input will give you one increment of power. And here are those double shots that I was talking about. So, like, let's say you rotate the D-pad. Rotate your thumb on the D-pad from up, right back to up. That's 5 inputs. So if you start on the D-pad by hitting up left or up right, that's technically 2 inputs that you've made. So you have 2 increments of power on plasma. Now, here's another example of those double shots that I had mentioned earlier. Combo Cannon and Dynablade are really your 2 biggest opportunities to get double shots. I'm really hoping you get Mark's 1 cycle to finish it off. Missed the 1 cycle marks.
Okay, ready for time. Time.
That was a good run, Engie.
Thanks. Thanks.
What was the time?